White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess named Snow White. Everyone adored her except for her stepmother, the queen, who was jealous of Snow White's beauty. The queen kept a magic mirror in a spooky tower. Every day she rubbed the mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" she asked. "You are, your majesty," replied the mirror, "every time." On Snow White's 16th birthday, the queen returned to her mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" she asked. "Snow White is the fairest," answered the mirror. The queen screamed. The queen ordered her huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and leave her there. The huntsman took pity on the princess. "Run away," he cried, as the crows called a warning to Snow White. Snow White ran through the forest until she heard the sound of a rushing stream. Suddenly she saw a cottage among the trees. She crept over to it and gently pushed open the creaking door. In the cottage, a table had been set with 7 cups and 7 saucers. "Whoever lives here must be very small," said Snow White. "They are very untidy, too." So she polished the table and swept the floor. Snow White felt very tired, so she laid down and fell fast asleep. Then 7 dwarfs arrived at the cottage. "Who's this?" they whispered. Snow White woke up and told them about the wicked queen. "Don't worry," said the dwarfs. "You can stay here with us." A storm raged outside the palace. The queen returned to her spooky tower. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" she asked. "Snow White is the fairest," replied the mirror. "Snow White is still alive," cried the queen. "I will get rid of her for good." She took a bottle of poison and poured it onto an apple. Disguised as a beggar, the queen set off into the forest. She waited until Snow White was alone in the cottage, then knocked on the door. "Will you buy an apple?" asked the queen. Snow White said she would, handing the queen some gold coins. She bit the poisoned apple and immediately fell to the floor. The evil queen cackled. The dwarfs arrived home. The dwarfs arrived home and found Snow White. They burst into tears as they thought she was dead. "We will build her a casket and carry her into the forest," they said, using their tools to make a glass casket. Snow White was laid in the casket. Forest animals came to protect her, and birds sang sweetly. One day a handsome prince came riding by. "Who is this beauty?" he wondered to himself. Carefully, the prince lifted the casket lid. He kissed Snow White on the lips. As if by magic, Snow White opened her eyes and gave a giggle. The dwarfs were so happy to see their friend. They clapped and cheered. At last, the wicked queen's spell was broken. Snow White and the prince fell instantly in love. "Will you marry me?" asked the prince. "Yes," replied Snow White. Wedding bells rang as Snow White and the prince got married in his grand palace. The wicked queen was never seen again, and they all lived happily ever after.